Welcome to another installment of Donning the Armor. This morning we will begin in Genesis chapter 31, verse 17. Then Jacob arose and set his sons and his wives on camels. And he carried away all his livestock and all his possessions which he had gained, his acquired livestock which he had gained in Paddan Aram, to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. So, as we ended last episode, he calls his wives. He says, look, God has told me to leave. Your father does not look like he has anything to do with me anymore. He's starting to look like he's getting ready to turn. They agree. What are we even here? We were treated like nothing but possessions by him to be traded and bartered away for your service. So let's leave. So now Jacob is leaving. He is going back to the land that was promised to his to his ancestors. Now Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel had stolen the household idols that were her father's. That will be a little bit important later. And Jacob stole away unknown to Laban the Syrian, in that he did not tell him that he intended to flee. So he fled with all that he had, and he arose and crossed the river and headed toward the mountains of Gilead. So when Laban went out to shear his sheep, probably with all of his sons, shearing that many sheep is a long process, and it is a lot of work to be done. So that's the moment Jacob said, this is when we can go. Let's get out. And Laban was told on the third day that Jacob had fled. Then he took his brethren with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey. And he overtook him in the mountains of Gilead. He had 3 days on him, but Jacob is moving much slower. He's got women, he's got children, he's got livestock. They're setting a much, much slower pace than Laban is basically just chasing them down. But God had come to Laban the Syrian in a dream by night and said to him, be careful what you speak to Jacob, neither good nor bad. So Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brethren pitched in the mountains of Gilead. So he overtakes him. They come up to each other. And Laban said to Jacob, what have you done that you have stolen away unknown to me and carried away my daughters like captives taken with the sword? So Laban is now pretending as though he cares about his daughters. And I'm sure in a way he does. Let's be honest with you. I think it's just he's an unbelievably toxic person. He is a deceitful, wicked, self-aggrandizing, and self-enriching person. That is all he cares about. But now he says, what have you done that you've stolen away unknown to me? Why did you leave when I didn't know? Well, Jacob asked plenty of times to leave. Why do you think he left? In this way. Why did you flee away secretly and steal away from me and not tell me? For I might have sent you away with joy and songs, with timbrel and harp. And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have done foolishly in doing so. It is in my power to do you harm, but the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, be careful that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad. And now you have surely gone because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods? So he's saying, why did you leave? I might have sent you away with joy. Well, 20 years has shown that that's not true. You would never have sent him away because you're deceitful. And the sons here, he says, why did you not allow me to kiss my sons? He actually means Jacob's sons. He's not claiming them as his own sons, but Hebrew didn't have a word for grandfather, grandson. So that's why often you'll see descendants of David in the book of Kings or Chronicles saying, my father David. David's not their father. He's like his great-great-grandfather, but they didn't really have a word for grandfather, where sometimes we'll read, and we've spoken about how the Hebrew might have 3 words where we have 1 word to mean 3 different things. Well, in this case, we have more words than they had for this instance. So what he means is not allowing me to kiss my grandsons and my daughters. So he's saying, and you've done foolishly, because it's in my power to harm you, because his countenance was down on him anyway. He wishes to harm him. If it had not been for God, he would have killed him and taken his grandsons and his flocks and his daughters home with him. But why did you steal my gods? Remember, Rachel took the idols. Now, for all of this, your God has blessed you. God has done this. God has done that. Laban never followed and put his trust in God. He put them in the idols. He put them in the false gods. That's who Laban was. He was an idolater. He was a deceiver. So all of the talk that he made was always to ingratiate himself to the person he's speaking to. Because that's what con men do. And that's what Laban is. Then Jacob answered and said to Laban, because I was afraid, for I said, perhaps you would take your daughters from me by force. With whomever you find your gods, do not let him live. In the presence of our brethren, identify what you have of yours and take it with you. For Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. So Jacob's saying, because I was afraid, for I said, no, he knew that if he tried to leave, he was going to leave empty-handed, if at all, because that's how wicked Laban was. Now he's saying, whoever you find your little idols with, don't, let them not live. And this is an instance of we need to watch our words. His beloved wife, Rachel, has those idols. Whoever has them, just whatever, they can die. I don't care. Because he doesn't know. When we say things, we need to watch what we say. Because our words mean things. I know we live in a culture where people say all kinds of things and lying is just the way people talk now. But we need to be careful what we say when we say it. Because this would come to pass. Rachel, as we'll read, will die in childbirth. So, not that he's exactly cursing his own wife, but in a way he is. And although that's not really the way God sees it, you gotta wonder if after she dies, does Jacob not remember this and play this scene over in his head? That this is what led to this curse I almost placed on my own family. Be careful with your words. They carry more weight than you think, especially on the psyche of people. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, into Leah's tent, and into the two maidens' tents, but he did not find them. Then he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken the household idols, put them in the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, let it not displease my lord that I cannot rise before you, for the manner of women is with me. And he searched, but did not find the household idols. So that's an interesting way to hide something by saying, I'm sorry, Dad, I got my period. You don't want me rising up now. I'm unclean in that manner. So he's not pushing it. But he ransacks everybody's things to find these idols, which I'm sure he wanted them, but is also a bit of a power play. This is his way of making his displeasure known to everybody. Then Jacob was angry and rebuked Laban, and Jacob answered and said to Laban, what is my trespass? What is my sin that you have so hotly pursued me? Although you have searched all my things, what part of your household things have you found? Set it here before my brethren and your brethren, that they may judge between us both. So he's saying, you're coming through here. You're accusing me of all these things. What have you found to prove it? Why have you done this? You know why I left. You know what all of this is about. But now you're going to accuse me of as being a thief. Where is what I've stolen? These 20 years I have been with you, and your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young. And I have not eaten the rams of your flock. That which was torn by beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. There I was, in the day the drought consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep departed from my eyes. So he's saying, for 20 years I have labored over your flocks. Your ewes and female goats, they didn't lose their young. They continued to birth their young in peace and health. I didn't eat from your flocks. When something did die, when something was caught by a predator, I didn't bring it to you. I bore the loss of it. I paid it out of my wages. I paid it out of what I owed. Whether it was stolen during the day or in the middle of the night, I was a worthy shepherd. I was a protector of your flock. No matter if I had to go without water, if I was thirsty, if I was freezing, if I didn't get to sleep. Thus I have been in your house 20 years. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks. And you have changed my wages 10 times. So every time I went to leave, you asked for something more. Every time I went to leave, you demanded something else. You demanded more time. And every time I was successful, you refused to let me leave. And now you're going to come at us like this. Unless the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had been with me, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. God has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands and has rebuked you last night. So he's saying, unless it wasn't for the God of Isaac and Abraham and me, you would have sent me away empty-handed. Because had you not seen the might of my God in that vision, through your superstitious mind, you would have come over here. But because all you respect is power, God had to come and rebuke you himself last night for the way you've treated his servant, for the way you've treated your family. God himself had to come to you and rebuke you. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, these daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock. All that you see is mine. So he still believes everything is his. Everything. Everything is for his enrichment. And that's all he can see in the world, is what he gets and what he can control. But what can I do this day to these daughters or their children whom they have borne? Now therefore come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and I. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. Then Jacob said to his brethren, gather stones. And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. Laban called it Jegar-Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban said, this heap is a witness between you and me this day. Therefore, its name was called Galeed, also Mizpah, because he said, may the Lord watch between you and me when we are absent from one another. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, God is witness between you and me. So he's holding Jacob to a level he doesn't even hold himself, which is common with unbelievers. They often will hold us to a standard that they don't hold themselves. We will often see anytime a Christian even stumbles slightly, the name of Jesus invoked. Oh, Jesus believed this. Jesus taught that. You don't know what Jesus taught because you're not a believer. You don't even follow him. I may be stumbling in my walk. I may be stumbling along this narrow path, but you are all the way over there, not even near that path. So I don't really care what you believe Jesus taught. But here we see Laban doing the same thing to Jacob. That let this heap be a witness between you and me, that the Lord, that God, Yahweh, will watch between you and me when we are absent another. That if you do something to my daughters, or do something to my grandkids, that God is a witness between you and me. Laban's a man who's never treated God as a witness of anything for himself. He's simply using it as a way to hold Jacob to a standard he has no intention of ever holding himself. Then Laban said to Jacob, here is this heap, and here is this pillar which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this pillar is a witness. And I will not pass beyond this heap to you, and you will not pass beyond this heap and this pillar to me for harm. So he's saying, you won't come over here. we won't do each other harm. We're going to stay separated as of this heap, this pillar right here. And the God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his brethren to eat bread. And they ate bread and stayed all night on the mountain. And early in the morning Laban arose, kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them. Then Laban departed and returned to his place. So, besides being kept to a certain level that Laban would never keep, they make a peace covenant in a way that they will keep away from each other, that they will stay separated because of the animosity that they have between each other. And one, because he hates Jacob. He sees Jacob as taking his wealth with him. And he fears Jacob because not just the rebuke of God, but because of the wealth and prosperity that God has blessed Jacob with. And then Laban departs. He returns back to Paddan Aram and leaves Jacob to go forward back to the land of his fathers. So let's move on to chapter 32. So Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's camp." And he called the name of that place Mahalim. Then Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, and he commanded them, saying, "Speak thus to my lord Esau. Thus your servant Jacob says, I have dwelt with Laban and stayed there until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and male and female servants, and have sent to tell my lord that I may find favor in your sight." So now he's got a new thing to deal with. He just left the man who would have his head if he had half a chance. And now he's going to Esau, a man who promised he would have his head if he was given half a chance. Then the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to your brother Esau, and he also is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." So Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed, and he divided the people that were with him and the flocks and herds and camels into 2 companies. So they said, "Yeah, we went to Esau. He's coming, and he's coming with a lot of people." So that would be terrifying, being heard from the older brother, the rugged brother, the warlike brother who promised to kill you. I could understand why he'd be greatly afraid and distressed in that moment. And he said, if Esau comes to one company and attacks it, then the other company which is left will escape. So he's dividing his forces and saying, look, he can only get one of us. 400 people, he can probably get more. But he's trying to be smart and trying to say, hey, look, if they get one of us, then the other one will get away and will escape and survive. Then Jacob said, O God of my father Abraham, the God of my father Isaac, the Lord who said to me, return to your country and to your family, and I will deal well with you. I am not worthy of the least of all the mercies and of all the truth which you have shown your servant. For I crossed over this Jordan with my staff, and now I have become 2 companies. Deliver me, I pray, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him lest he come and attack me, and the mother with the children. For you said, I will surely treat you well, and make your descendants as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. So we'll end there at verse 12. But you have what looks like an army coming at him. That's what Jacob is now contending with. And he's praying to God. Immediately he goes to God. He doesn't doubt. He's not trying to do things in his own power. He is saying, Lord, you told me you would deal well with me if I followed you. I'm following you back here. You told me you'd deal well with me if I trusted you. I'm trusting you in this, Lord. You said you would make my descendants as the sand of the sea, which cannot be counted for the multitude, which is hyperbolic, but still is what his promise is. He's saying, Lord, please see me through this. Deliver me from this. Lord, I am placing everything in your hands, for all things come from you. I see what is coming at me. I know what he is capable of. I know I will not be able to survive without your power. Jacob sees the problem. He sees the force coming against him. He sees the obstacle in his way. And immediately he turns to the Lord. He turns to the Lord to say, Lord, I trust in you. I pray to you. Please do as you promised. Because I am unworthy of anything that you can give, but you have promised it, O Lord, and please bless me. I have done as you have asked. I have followed you every step of the way. Please allow me in this to be complete, to be in peace, so that I can continue to walk out your path, that I can continue to be your servant, and I can continue to prosper in your hands and by your blessings. And that should be our prayer all the time. That the Lord blesses us in a way that allows us to prosper from him and him alone, for him and for him alone, and to grow in our knowledge of him, grow closer to him, and become a more perfect citizen of his future kingdom. Because we are all called for something of God. We are not all called to be a Jacob, a Joseph, an Abraham, a David. We're not all called to be a Peter. Some of us are called for simple, meek tasks. Simple things like going about our lives in the jobs the Lord has provided so that he can bless our families through it. Some of us, our sole requirement of God is that we follow him by raising our children to be well with him and to follow him as well. But with every obstacle, because there will be obstacles along this path, every obstacle we come across, we turn to him immediately in prayer and beseech him every chance we get. Don't pray about something once. Don't pray twice. Continue to pray. Paul says in, I believe it's 2 Corinthians, that he prayed for his thorn in the flesh to be removed from him 3 times. Now, we could take that literally as 3 times, but there was a figure of speech in Hebrew of that culture that to pray 3 times meant I pray about it continuously until the Lord answered me. That Paul continued to pray about it, to please remove this thorn, this obstacle, until the Lord answered him. And if we have an obstacle in our way, pray continuously, day after day if need be, until the Lord gives us our answer. And at the same time, we should pray that we have the wisdom and discernment to understand his answer, and that we have the fortitude, strength, and courage to accept his answer, even if it's one we did not want to hear. Because through all things are possible. Through his timing, his grace, his mercy, his power, his sovereignty, and most importantly for me, his love. All things are possible. And all things will be answered, even if in our pride, it's not an answer we would have wished for. But that's enough of my rambling for this episode. Thanks for joining me for another installment of Donning the Armor. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed our time together. I hope to see you again next time. But until that time comes, be blessed.